Sounds good.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel once again with the Infinity Edge podcast. Went 5 for 5 in my picks on the LEC and managed to make roughly $10. So I'm feeling good right now, and it's not because I took a nap after getting drunk at lunch. It only has to do with European League of Legends. I've talked more about League of Legends to people who don't understand League of Legends today than I've maybe ever done in my life, which is not easy. It's a very weird conversation to have, but that's fine. At least we won the games, right? So after the first match, I basically stepped out of a meeting today, open up DraftKings, and the first thing I see is the team in first place has self-made with like 80 points in the captain slot. I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't good. I'm dead now. 11-2-9 as Rumble. Vitality beat Schalke 24-8. A pretty good draft overall. I don't think that Schalke really did a horrible job drafting. They have good engage. They swapped ADCs, which is fine. Just, they just got blown out of the water because Vitality is better than them. Astralis won 13-2. We saw a Kennen game, which is cool. He's coming back a little bit. Rogue beat XL 17-9. Another Kennen showed up, which is interesting. Mad Lions against G2. G2 won, of course, because they're G2. 25-12. We had a Graves sighting with El Yoya, which is really cool. That I do think that we'll see Graves come back. Which it would if that's the jungle meta that we're going into, where like we have these late game AD carries jungle meta that has a bunch of different types of champions, and it's not one specific like farming group or tank jungler that's going to like dominate every matchup. That'd be very fun to watch for the playoffs and for Worlds. Like if we could actually get into a Worlds environment like that, that'd be really nice. Which would be different, but ultimately, you'll get to the point where somebody figures out the best strategy, and that'll change things. And then the last match, which we were divided on yesterday, Misfits against Fnatic, I maintained the faith in the boys. 14-7, a win over Fnatic. Pretty straightforward draft from both sides, nothing too insane. A couple of Mundo jungle games, which, Mundo is a good jungler, but not a great jungler. I don't think he's broken enough where you can easily throw him into every team composition. So that's basically what happened so far in the LEC. TSM is winning the first game of LCS right now, but that's all we have. So what did you guys think about the games today?
I checked my lineups earlier. I thought Misfits GT was going to be the nuts. It wasn't. I was pretty shocked. That Schalke team really likes to feed.
Because I am a top 100 FanDuel League of Legends player. I played over on FanDuel today and got to Reckless Captain by using Astralis, and then they make you play that third team. So I played Rogue in the team slot, and actually had a pretty good day over there, although it doesn't really make up for the rest of the season. But you got to take wins when you get them.
You do have to take wins when you get them.
Today was a winning day. Yeah, that Vitality game is kind of interesting too, because like they could have beat them with a lot less kills, but because they were ahead, they just kept getting ahead, and it was a good game by them. I'm interested to see what happens with them tomorrow.
Yeah, and as everyone knows, I also play golf DFS, and there's actual PGA DFS, well, not PGA, but golf DFS for the Olympics. After the first day, I had Sepp Straka, who's in first place, and I had Jazz Janawatanand, who was in solo second place. But then yesterday, Xander Schauffele was like, hey guys, I'm better than both of you. I'm going to have like an insane round, and now he's in first place. He's at 11 under. I've still got a shot. All you want basically in this kind of tournament is to be like within the top 1 or 200 spots, and then just hope one of your low owned guys goes completely nuts on the last day. So that's what I'll be sweating tomorrow. Like I like it's kind of fun when they have stuff in Asia, like because
no
the
cut
hours.
stuff.
Well, yeah, but also the
Yeah.
hours,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the hours are like just so different. So that's basically it. So let's move on to tomorrow and get back into League of Legends.
Yeah, we'll jump into the League of Legends portion of the show. Moving on. TSM just took sole place of, of the LCS, I guess. 100 Thieves are a good team.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good team.
Yep.
But we'll jump over to LEC for the time being. Updated playoff schedule. SK Gaming and Schalke 04. You're fucking out of there. You're playing for pride. So, our first game of the match to roll right into it, SK versus Misfits. Alan, we'll start with you on this one. SK versus Misfits. Have you learned your lesson? Are you going back to the Misfits?
Yeah, probably. I think it's a pretty good misfit spot. I think that SK is probably gonna loosen up after playing pretty tight today, trying to get into playoffs and not winning. I could see them doing some goofy stuff. I don't think that too many of the guys are like playing for their job. Probably Blue is playing for his job, but like this SK season was kind of a clusterfuck anyway because it started with like apparently Tinks was so toxic they had to get him off the team or something.
Is that what happened?
It seems like it. Like,
There's no way.
it
He
seems
seemed like such a nice guy. There's no way
he did
Tinks
to
was
me
running
too,
around.
but
There's no way
I
Tinks was
had-
Dardoch. There's no way. 0% chance.
I had heard that was what was going on, and then they put treats in the jungle, and he doesn't even want to be in the jungle. So SK season was kind of doomed from the beginning. So I think they could loosen up in this spot. Even if they loosen up and play like surprise champions, I don't think they're good enough to beat Misfits, beat the boys. And so yeah, I think it's a great Misfits spot, and I hope that we see a lot of kills in a goofy way, and we get to win money with Misfits. That's kind of the dream right there.
All right, we'll move over to you, Michael, on this one. Misfits versus SK Gaming. Are you going with the Misfits as well?
Of course. It's only Misfits. You can't play SK here. I mean, does Misfits have a realistic chance of moving up in the standings? Rogue plays Vitality.
Yes.
Rogue plays Vitality, and Rogue plays SK. So Misfits would need to go 2-0, and Rogue needs to lose one of their games, right? And then they would tie. And then does Misfits have the tiebreaker over them? Misfits against...
No, definitely not.
Yeah, they're 0-2. So I don't think there's any way that they could realistically catch Rogue. So they might be... So, they're definitely playing to win because they want to at least maintain the second spot so that they get the bye. So, Misfits has to beat SK, and then they have to beat Mad Lions. They lost to Mad Lions previously.
And Fnatic have Mad Lions and Schalke to wrap up their season.
Okay, so... Yeah, Misfits has a lot to play for here. I mean... Even if they didn't, I would still be all over Misfits in this spot, just from a talent perspective. But with the added incentive, there's no way I'm playing SK Gaming, so...
Alright. Pretty quick one there. I figured you guys would move right on.
Yeah.
Our next game, pretty close in the standings, the 6th and 7th place teams. Astralis versus XL. Astralis 7-9, XL 6-10. Start with you, Michael, on this one. Are you going to Astralis or XL for this matchup?
Okay, so let's do... Let me get the scoreboards up. In general, I do think that Astralis has been good enough. I think XL's been overperforming. I think Astralis has like the same talent level as XL. Cries against White Knight. I do think White Knight is a better player, and I think that's... It's actually at the point where it's somewhat considerable. I think that White Knight's play is more dependent on actually being a good player, and Cry's better performances or standout performances come from like late game champions. There aren't many times where I've seen like the early and mid game Cry's being the difference maker in a positive way for their team. Today they had a pretty rough Jace game against Kennen. I think that the Kennen matchup is supposed to do really well against Jace anyway, so it's not necessarily his fault. But if they're picking that and being able to be countered, I mean, it just shows that they don't have a high priority for Cries in the draft. Last week they had Camille against Jax, which is interesting, but again, it's another scaling champion. They had Jace against Set, which is a good lane bully matchup for the Jace, just like poking him down in the laning phase. So I think White Knight gets the advantage there. I think Zanzara and Marcoon are very similar. Marcoon is probably just better than Zanzara in like every single way at this point. Stylistically, I think that Zanzara is fine. So just let me go back to the champions from today. Marcoon plays the Diana. He had another game on Diana today, but they lost. But at least they're prioritizing like the right champions. And then Zanzara was on Viego today. I don't think that Zanzara is a good Viego. I mean, he's probably playing it because it's a broken champion, not because it's like his bread and butter. Magic Felix against Nuke Duck. They're both league average at best. I still think that Nuke Duck is one of the worst mid laners in Europe long term. He's been much better this split because his team has been unexpectedly winning. That's when your expectations are to be the worst mid laner and you win some games and have good KDAs, people will think that you're playing out of your mind. And then Jeskla and Promiscu against Patrick and Advienne. I do think that Patrick is better than Jeskla. Advienne and Promiscu, I'm not so sure yet. I'm not 100% convinced that Advienne's like some kind of difference maker in the support role. But we know that Promiscu isn't, for the most part. He has had some good splits and some good some good series where he has been a difference maker, but he's not consistently a difference maker, which explains why he's on Astralis. So I do think that Astralis, from a drafting perspective and having the top lane advantage, is nice. XL having the jungle advantage and the bot lane advantage is nice. Astralis probably has a mid lane advantage. It does seem very close. And I mean, obviously the money line is right around the 50% for both teams. I think it's going to be easier for people to play XL because they're up against Astralis. Is Astralis' upside kind of limited against XL? Maybe, probably not. I think that this could just be a super bloody match, regardless of what team gets the early game lead. So I'm definitely interested in both sides. If I'm running out a ton of lineups, they're both still in contention. I don't know. What do you guys think about the tempo of this game? Do you think that XL is more likely to fight, or do you think they're more likely to scale? Because if you look at their team compositions from today, Astralis actually drafted a more late game team composition than XL. XL up against Rogue, who they probably think of as a late game team, drafted Lucian, drafted Diana, Jace, Jhin, so very strong early game champions, lost the early game and lost. So if they're adapting their draft based on their opponent, they're probably going to go for a late game. I think they would go for a late game against Astralis. So I don't think that we're necessarily going to see the same kind of draft, so that would scare me a little bit on Astralis. But I think from an ownership perspective, the fact it's going to be low owned, it makes a ton of sense as a secondary stack. Probably don't want their team slot. I guess you kind of do want their team slot. Because if Astralis is just giving away the game, then you're going to get a bunch of dragons, you're going to get a bunch of towers, you're going to get a Baron. So, yeah, I think I like the Astralis side better because of ownership.
All right.
Yeah.
In this first matchup, Astralis did beat XL, but we'll throw it over to you, Alan, on this one. Astralis coming off a 2-win streak, XL 1 loss from today. Who are you taking in this matchup, and what will you be doing with them in DFS?
I basically agree with everything Michael just said. I think it's really interesting that Excel is priced as the favorite in every spot, right?
Yeah, in every spot and on the money line. It's like a minus 125 to minus 105.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do think that that's right from like a team strength way, but I would think that like because of the standings and because of how they played so far, I would have thought that Astralis would have been the favorite here, but I don't think it really matters for ownership. Go ahead.
XL is favored on DraftKings. They are the more expensive team.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I would have thought that Astralis would have been favored because they have one more win, right?
I think the reason why XL is the favorite and just like has better public sentiment around them is because since they made the roster changes, they've had the higher highs. Like they've
Yeah.
been viewed as like, oh, they brought in new players, they're doing better. They beat G2, beat Vitality, lost to Mad Lions, which people aren't going to be upset about. Lost to Fnatic, they're not going to be upset about. Lost to Misfits, they're not going to be upset about. Beat SK Gaming, lost to SK Gaming, which is a bad loss. Beat Schalke, beat Vitality again, and then lose
Yeah.
to Rogue. So like when they're supposed to win, when they're supposed to win, they win generally. When they're not supposed to win, they still pick up some good victories. So I think that's really the scary thing for me, is that even though I think from a talent perspective and like a matchup perspective, stylistically, I think Astralis is in a good spot. The fact that actually doesn't scare me. I think that's why I'm confident in picking Astralis here, is because the perception of XL is probably just wrong. Like if you're weighing their wins too heavily, it's just gonna skew everything. So
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think I like the roster of Excel better than Astralis, and
well, yeah,
so
that's
like
fair. That's fair.
yeah. And so I would rather have Excel. I also think that it's probably a better Excel spot. Although like both teams are Excel has been okay for their opponents since the new additions came in, because Adbian seems to be pretty aggressive at times, and so. I could see this game easily being really bloody. I think that it could end up a lot like the Vitality game today, where like the team that's winning just wants to like slow the game as much as they can and just keep getting more and more kills to be 100% sure that they're going to win the game, which we saw today really opens up their potential as the DraftKings winner, and I think ownership on both sides here is going to be too low. So I would also play both sides. I think that XL probably wins the game like 68% of the time for me, but that doesn't really mean that much to me. I would want to play lineups with both sides.
in general, I think that XL's upside should be higher than Astralis' upside in this matchup, because if you're XL and you're most likely going to draft for a late game, I still think they would, like, they're the team that's more likely to draft a late game out. So if they're drafting a late game out and they somehow win the early game, I fully expect Astralis to draft an early game or mid game team composition. So if XL is somehow wins the early game, Astralis will have to fight them, and in this spot specifically, Astralis needs to fight them because it's for playoffs. So I think that's the only reason why I would play both sides. If this was like the middle of the season or something, and I could like just pick a spot. It depends on how the rest of the slate plays out. But if this is a spot that I don't feel comfortable just picking one side and chalking it, writing off the other team, it's because of those two things: the fact that the late game team can still win the early game, get an extremely bloody match, and because there's added incentive for Astralis to play aggressively when losing. So those are just two things to keep in mind, I guess, when you're building lineups. But I do still want Astralis to be my pick. So.
All right. We'll move on to our third game of the slate for Saturday. We have Vitality versus Rogue. Both of these teams are still looking for a win. Rogue definitely wants first place, and Vitality still in the hunt for playoffs after today's win. We'll throw it over to you, Alan, first on this one. Vitality versus Rogue. Does Vitality have a chance?
Yeah, I do think that they have a chance. We were talking yesterday about how I just feel like their record is not very kind to them. And if you look at their gold stats, like it looks like a team that should be solidly in the playoffs. Like their gold stats are much better than Astralis, much better than Excel, much better than a lot of the teams that they're competing with for the bottom playoff spot. They just do dumb shit sometimes. That's what Shigenda said on the broadcast, I think today, basically said as much. Like they just have random fuck ups in late game situations a lot of time, and then just lose off of that. And so they just have a record that I don't think shows their real strength. And I think that they are the DraftKings side of this game. Like if Rogue wins this game, I don't think that it becomes a high scoring game, because I don't think of Astralis as like desperate like Or what did I just say?
You don't think you said Astralis, but you don't think that
Yeah,
Vitality is as
I don't think
desperate
of Vitality
as
as like a desperate, like they're not gonna like fight to come back. They're gonna believe that they could scale and win from a losing position, I think, and so I think that kind of caps Rogue. And I don't know, I just generally don't like playing Rogue. But I do think that like playing Vitality in some 4 stacks makes some sense, because I do think that Rogue, on the other hand, like in a game that they don't need to win so bad, uh, will fight from behind. I think that Rogue's just good enough that that's how they're going to approach games if they end up losing in the early game anyway too. So I think that Vitality could be a really high upside play if they win. Obviously, I don't think that they win more often than they lose, but I would rather play them on DraftKings than I would play Rogue.
All right, we're gonna move on over to you, Michael, on this one. Vitality versus Rogue. Do you share Alan's sentiment here that Vitality have a shot?
Yeah, I definitely think they have a shot to win. I do disagree with kind of the incentive angle. Like, I think that we could be in a spot tomorrow, if I'm looking at this correctly, where Astralis beats XL and then Vitality
Has to win.
they might not be able to make playoffs regardless. I think if Astralis is 8-10, they already have one win against Vitality. I don't know what their other tiebreakers are, but Astralis and Vitality play each other the following day. So I think that if Astralis wins and Vitality doesn't need to beat Rogue, then I don't think that we're going to get the hyper aggressive angle from Vitality. I think that they'll just try to play it straight, and if they for some reason lose this game, they might just think to themselves, we have a chance tomorrow to do it. You know what I mean? So that kind of determines how I look at their incentive to like play for an extremely bloody game. I think that what you were talking about, if you're right, and Vitality is still alive, I think they're the team that's more likely to play the early game angle, giving Rogue the additional upside of being the late game scaling team that's playing against a team that drafted for early game. So in that scenario, I would think that Rogue's upside is better than normal, like in a better than a normal matchup between Rogue and Vitality. Because I think in general, I agree that it's not a huge upside spot for Rogue, but because of all of the other factors that are in play, I think that it is a better spot for Rogue than normal. So Rogue's ownership is generally too low compared to their win percentage stuff, but it's fine because because of their playstyle, they don't really hit their ceiling very often. So I think it's just a Rogue spot for me. I do think Astralis wins that match, and then I think that Rogue wins their match. So depending on how the tiebreakers go, Vitality might be dead. If you're right, or no, if I'm right and the Vitality Astralis matchup means nothing, then you have an even better reason to play Rogue, you know?
Yep.
So all of the signs for me are pointing to the Rogue side being a better than normal spot for Rogue, and that is where I would want to be. I think that a team like Vitality, who I've wanted to be successful, and I would like it if they make playoffs. I think they have the talent to make a run in playoffs if they get there. But that's a good enough thing for me. Like, I don't need to bet money on them to still have that be alive to me. Like, from purely from a DraftKings perspective, I think probably fade Vitality, play Rogue, and move on. Yeah.
All right, yeah, as Michael's been saying, just keep the playoff picture in mind while you're making your lineups. Create some narratives through that way as well. We'll move on to our fourth game for Saturday. We have G2 versus Schalke. Schalke 3-13 on an 8-loss streak. Will G2 make it 9, Michael, or will Schalke get 1 win on the board?
I think G2 probably wins this one. Back to you.
All right, Alan. How are your feelings on G2 versus Schalke?
I would expect a hashtag G2 win on this
nice.
one. Probably not the greatest DraftKings spot for G2. They're probably going to be too owned for what Schalke is trying to do. Because Schalke really is trying to just play Broken Blade on carries and split the map. But today they couldn't do that because the rest of his team was just beating their asses off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have incentivized G2 as well, so you're not gonna get like, oh, they put Yonkos at AD carry, haha, so funny, we're all having a good time.
Yeah.
I really don't think we're getting that tomorrow. It's gonna be G2, out just win the game. Schalke's gonna play a slow game. G2 is gonna be like, whatever, we're just gonna build up a 4,000 gold lead, and it's gonna be like 4-1 or something, and then just dominate you. So. Schalke has absolutely nothing to play for. Obviously, like I've said before, it feels bad to lose League of Legends matches while you're in them. So I don't necessarily think they're gonna like actually just roll over and die. Like they're gonna try to put together some kind of chances to win. I just don't think that going out there and dying 25 times in one of your last matches as a professional organization is really a good look for you. So I think they'll try to avoid that as best as they can. And going up against G2, they're very fortunate that this wasn't the last day of the season, because if you played against G2 in your last game of your professional organization and they beat you like 35 to 2, then you're gonna be kind of upset about it.
Yeah, if you do feel like G2 is just going to roll over this team, it might be a pretty good fade if you just want to go with that philosophy, because G2 is pretty cheap relative to G2 prices, right?
Yeah.
If you've been playing DFS for a long time, fourth highest placed top laner, third mid, third jungle,
Crazy.
and the only one that's super expensive is of course Reckless at 80 carry, but everyone else is either third or fourth.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
like
expect
20 plus % on all of those positions.
easily. All right,
Well,
moving on to our.
just the last thing. Sorry. I feel like Schalke has lost a lot of games in under 30 minutes as well. So if you want to get G2 as your team slot, I think G2 team slot is pretty good here. Like, you don't necessarily have the gigantic upside from additional dragons or like 4 barons or something like that, but you do have a better chance at the under 30. It's only like 2 or 3 points, but because of the fact that it's Schalke, I think that you can be fairly confident that G2 gets, 21, 22 points almost every single time that they win this match, which is just kind of normal.
Moving on to our last match for Saturday. It's going to be a bloodbath, at least I think. Fnatic versus Mad Lions. Both of these teams are 10-6. Fnatic coming off of 3 straight losses, Mad Lions coming off of 1 loss. Someone's got to win here. So we'll start with you, Alan, on this one. Who's winning between Fnatic and the Mad Lions?
This game makes me so sad. I mean, it's impossible to fade this game. Like, if you look at the ownership here and you're like, does it really justify that level of ownership on this kind of game? Even if it's the 2 bloodiest teams going up against each other, and then you're kind of like, yeah, I think it probably does. So, as far as like what team do I like better, I think I like Fnatic better. Fnatic has been struggling. I kind of think that they're testing some stuff. They played. What did they play today? I thought it was kind of interesting.
Renekton, Dr. Mundo, Akali, Ezreal, Morgana.
Okay, so nothing like way out of there, but like Morgana is not something we see right now too much. Ezreal's not something we see right now too much. So, coming up in a game that is more of a must win against Mad Lions, or more of a want to win against Mad Lions, I still believe in Fnatic and believe in the talent of Fnatic. Obviously, we talked about our opinions of Niski. I think he's obviously the weak spot on the map for Fnatic in this game, but otherwise, I think I prefer Fnatic's players everywhere else. Top lane's pretty close, but everywhere else, I think I take Fnatic, and for that reason, I think I would go with a full fade on Mad Lions here. I think you're going to have a really tough time trying to play both sides of this matchup, especially if you want to do what we were talking about earlier, which is like play Misfits, play Astralis Excel, and mix them in. You're going to have to probably choose a side in this game. And for me, I think I choose Fnatic and mix it with those teams we talked about, Astralis, Excel, Misfits, and Vitality for me. Michael would probably prefer Rogue there.
All right, well, we'll get Michael's thoughts on this one. Fnatic versus Mad Lions.
Okay, so Fnatic basically has a free win on the last day against Schalke. Mad Lions has to play Misfits. So Mad Lions is probably more incentivized to take this game seriously. The funny thing is that, I mean, Humanoid has died 9 times in 2 of their last, like, 3 or 4 matches, which is insane. Dying 9 times in a professional match is, that's like striking out 4 times in a Major League Baseball game, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no other way to kind of frame that. It's kind of just insane. So I think that the fact that they're listed as a favorites is kind of strange. I know that Mad Lions had a lot of good public sentiment around them because of their performance at in the last year's playoff or last splits playoffs. Their performance at MSI was okay. They've been relatively consistent, but recently they've looked a little bit worse. Fnatic's also been dropping some games, so you're not really getting either team at their peak. So I'm gonna just completely discount, what's happened recently and think about it in terms of long-term talent. So Armut against Adam, I think they're pretty similar. I do think that Adam has probably the better chance to be a top. I think Adam has a better chance to be the best top laner in the LEC. But they're both most likely going to be very good for at least a little while, a couple of years. Bwipo against Elyoya. I do think that Bwipo is the better jungler now, and I think that Bwipo will always be better than Elyoya unless we get into a power farming jungle meta. I think that Bwipo will not be able to control himself from going and ganking stuff. I think that he thinks of League of Legends as like a bloody game where you go in, you try to flip lanes around because was originally a laner, but he also understands the game. So I could be wrong about that. We haven't seen him in a farming meta. But Elyoya playing the Graves, Graves was recently buffed. So if Mad Lions, if their read on the meta right now is that Graves is going to be sneaky OP again, then they could be ahead of the meta and just consistently playing that, which would be a big benefit for Mad Lions. Humanoid's better than Niski. I mean, Niski is just not a good player. I say that a lot, and I do truly mean it. Karzi and Kaiser are better than Upset and Hylissang. I do like Hylissang as a player in general, but I think Karzi takes away a lot of the winning upside that a player like Upset has because of the way that they approach the laning phase. Like, Karzi and Kaiser win most of the lanes that they're in. They draft around it as well, so that would scare me for Fnatic. I think that the bot lane advantage should go to Mad Lions because of drafting. I think that the jungle and top lane matchup should go into Fnatic's favor because of talent and also maybe potentially drafting as well, but more talent. And then Mad Lions has the advantage in the mid lane from talent, but Fnatic probably has the advantage in drafting for the mid lane because they always have the out of playing some kind of supportive mid laner that can help support the side lanes. So I'm kind of talking myself into wanting to play Mad Lions, which I didn't really expect. So as a small favorite and the more expensive team, I think I'll probably go Mad Lions here. I was genuinely going to say that I thought I wanted Fnatic. That was going to be my take, but once I started talking through it, I'm just getting pulled towards Mad Lions. So I think I would want Mad Lions here. It does line up with the playoff incentive. It lines up with the talent of the two teams, which is there's not some kind of gigantic gap, but yeah, for me it's Mad Lions.
All right. Are we good on the LEC?
Yeah, I would just say that I think that a lot of people are going to find ways to combine players from this game with G2, and so finding the other spots to combine players from this game.
Evil Geniuses is about to get booty blasted by Cloud9. This is gonna be a nightmare game for Evil Geniuses. I think it's Diana Yasuo against a Twisted Fate. Aphelios combination. So it's going to be, haha, I E'd you as Diana. Now I'm going to press R and you're instantly going to get ulted by Yasuo. And then, it's just that's not a good draft from Evil Geniuses. They have the late game chances because of like Aphelios and everything, but oh man, I would not want to be in their situation in this draft. It's funny because a person like LS would probably say Evil Geniuses has the better late game stuff. Like, you know, they're the ones who should be thought of as the favorites to win. But when you're a team like C9 who plays super aggressive and you have all this early game advantage in basically every single lane, like that, the draft advantage kind of cancels out. And it comes down to like who gets that early game lead, which will be C9 for the most likely. So I'm gonna be pretty distracted by this. I want to see all the blood.
All right, moving on to the LCS, best region in the league. At the time of recording, like Michael says, Cloud9 EG are currently playing, and we just saw TSM take sole position of first place. So do with that information what you will. Moving on to Saturday, we have 100 Thieves versus Golden Guardian. We'll start with you, Alan, on this one. Will 100 Thieves be able to bounce back, or will this team just turn to turmoil?
Why does 100 Thieves do this every single split? It feels like, I swear to God, they're like the best team in the league for 3 months, and then the last month they just completely shit their pants. Wait, are you guys still here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, glad to hear that you all disappeared off my screen. I think that this game kind of sucks from a DraftKings perspective. I think that both teams will play some sort of like split pushy type composition with like a mid laner that can roam. I think it's a lot of what they've done so far, or like a Lucian mid or something like that for a Blaze Olive, and I think it kind of sucks as far as DraftKings goes. I do think that like Golden Guardians is live to win the game. I'm not sure what their money line is.
Plus 200-ish.
Yeah, if it were over plus 200, I think it would be a good bet. But I'm not sure that even if they win, they're gonna be like a great DraftKings play. It feels like a lot of teams that win against 100 Thieves are pretty capped on the kill upside. Let's see, what did TSM end up with? Because I missed the end of the game today against 100 Thieves.
It was like 11.
It was very
kills.
low. Yeah.
It was very
Yeah,
low.
yeah. That feels right for this game as well to me, and it feels like that's kind of the upside of both teams. So I think this game just ends up a full fade for me.
All right, we'll move it over to you, Michael. 100 Thieves versus Golden Guardians. 100 Thieves on this one?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of Golden Guardians. And I'm not too concerned with 100 Thieves losing these matches. I think that LCS, they're going to have everyone play from home, right? Like for the next for this week.
It seems like they're going to be doing that. Yes.
Yeah. So C9 will not lose from home. I think, because Perks doesn't need to wear his hat, so he'll be 100%. I think C9 will probably go 3-0 this weekend, which puts a lot of pressure on 100 Thieves to take this game very seriously and just play it kind of straight. So that kind of does diminish the upside of the match. I think that the interesting thing about Golden Guardians is they could try to force C9 or try to force 100 Thieves into a very difficult match, because Golden Guardians is mostly looking at this as like a chance to prove themselves. They're not completely eliminated either. So after they beat, I think they will beat FlyQuest today. Then they'll be tied with FlyQuest. Then going into tomorrow, FlyQuest plays Immortals. FlyQuest plays CLG. It'll be interesting to see how that ends up, I guess, because Golden Guardians has Immortals as well. So this could be a game that Golden Guardians is thinking as like, this is our opportunity to almost secure a playoff spot if they think that they're better than Immortals. And are confident going into that matchup. So I think you'll see a different kind of more reserved Golden Guardians, but I don't necessarily think that a reserved Golden Guardians is bad for DraftKings. I think that they'll try to find advantages in the draft because they have like diverse champion pools. I'm not sure they'll go into a split push spot. I think that the way for 100 Thieves to do this would be like how they were playing in the early part of the season with Abadage playing more of a supportive role, but I think that Golden Guardians is better when a Blaze Olive isn't necessarily a supportive player, but is like the key point of their team. So like the Tom Kench stuff, like yes, he wasn't supposed to be the one getting all the kills or like carrying the game, but that's kind of what just ended up happening. So can they actually win? Like this game is just so important for Golden Guardians. That seems like a silly reason for me to want to pick them, though. You know, I think it's just play 100 Thieves, fade Golden Guardians, and then Golden Guardians would be faced with beating Immortals, beating FlyQuest. And I think they can do that. So I think in that scenario, that's probably the one that we'll see. So just don't even play 100 Thieves, I would say. Actually, what do you guys think? I mean, if this is... It depends on how Golden Guardians thinks about this matchup, because if Golden Guardians plays for early game and 100 Thieves plays for late game, and 100 Thieves gets an early game advantage, then it's going to be that insane like high kill upside for 100 Thieves. So I think I do want to play 100 Thieves and wouldn't fully fade them. I think that's where I would end up, or that's where I will end up.
I guess I'll frame it this way: 100 Thieves are second and third most expensive on the slate. Do you feel like that's worth it salary-wise?
I think it's not worth it salary-wise. I think it will be worth it ownership-wise, because we'll probably see 100 Thieves as a primary stack at lower ownership than it should be because of the matchup, and because of the fact that they lost today. Yeah, that's basically.
I did also just look through some of the Golden Guardians losses to like good teams that we think of as slow, and like TSM did get 20 kills against them, and so did Team Liquid. So that's kind of interesting to me as a reason to play 100 Thieves. That was not what I expected when I was going back through there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll move on to our second game for Saturday. Should be a quick one, but maybe you guys have different thoughts. Cloud9 versus Dignitas. We'll throw it over to you, Michael, on this one.
Well,
C9, right?
Well, I do like Cloud9, and I do not like Dignitas. So I think that I'll probably go with the hatless mid laner from Cloud9, Senor Perks.
That sounds like a great idea. We'll throw it over to you, Alan. Cloud9 versus Dignitas.
I too like Mr. Perks. I translated that for Michael. Senior means Mr. in English, so that's for the people out there. We're a cultured podcast. No, I think it's great. It's a great C9 spot too. I think Dignitas is gonna die a lot, and C9 gets lots of kills anyway. So yep, C9 is definitely one of the cores for me tomorrow.
Yep, Perks is not wearing a hat, but his head has not been shaved yet. So can we really call him a superstar?
They are losing right now, and I don't understand what's going on in this game. They're not playing to any of their advantages so far, so that is not great. But we'll check in later when this game gets interesting.
All right, we'll move on to the third one. Hopefully, Cloud9 will do something.
It's like the meme with the guy poking the thing with a stick. Do something.
I think the more appropriate one is stop it. They're dead already. But Immortals versus FlyQuest is our third game for Saturday. So we'll throw it over to Alan first on this one. Immortals versus FlyQuest. What are you doing with these dumpster fire teams?
Does Immortals qualify as a dumpster fire? I think of Immortals as like a 40-degree day. If you guys have ever seen The Wire, 40-degree days, you're like, guys are starting to get the barbecue started up. They might, try and wear a t-shirt, but it's just not that. It's just not there. But like a 50-degree day, now we're talking. Now we're coming on, right? Immortals is like the 40-degree day of LCS. I think Immortals is a lot better than FlyQuest. I think that FlyQuest is a high kill upside team. Their opponents seem to be projected very highly pretty much all the time on on the esports department. Obviously, Immortals isn't like a super high kill team
Oh
themselves.
my
C9
god.
just got 2 kills, huh?
And Impact teleports at half health, and Vulcan misses. Oh god. Oh, the LCS.
Anyway, so yeah. Long story short, I think it's a good immortal spot. I think that you can probably find some combinations of immortals in Cloud9 that you don't that we always say like shouldn't be possible, and
Mhm.
you're gonna look at that and be like, oh shit, I have perks in the captain slot, and 3 immortals players or something like that, and that is some stuff I would definitely be interested in tomorrow. I don't That will be highly owned for sure, but it also has a great chance to win.
All right, we'll throw it to you, Michael. Immortals versus FlyQuest. What do you got?
Yeah, so I think this is. Oh man, I'm just watching the teleport. I think that I don't think it's a good spot for Immortals. I think that my dream scenario is that Golden Guardians destroys FlyQuest today, and then FlyQuest. I would want to play FlyQuest here. I do like the roster they're running out. I think it would be better if they had triple in the mid lane, but I just think it's still going to be good enough, the changes that they're making right now, to be competitive with a team like Immortals. Immortals has been the more consistent team in general, but when you're FlyQuest and you've lost like so many games and you had that roster change, I do think that can kind of contribute to some of their losing. So for me, it really is just it's a FlyQuest spot. I think that everyone will play Immortals, and I just feel like they're not that kind of team. They're not. I don't want Immortals when they're like the chalky team. I want Immortals when they're in like a matchup that they're supposed to lose, but are a good secondary stack for some reason. Like I just heavily prefer that time of playing Immortals. I want FlyQuest.
Yeah, it is harder to play immortals than I would have thought with Cloud9 tomorrow, which is kind of interesting. So that may make people go to other teams outside of Immortals.
Yeah. If you're playing it from like an ownership perspective or like these other perspectives, I think there's always a way to get to them tomorrow. But if I wouldn't use the like high upside one, because the high upside one is why it would be a higher owned team. Like that's why they would be higher owned than they should be, is because of the FlyQuest narratives. So they're just a little overpriced. Like if you're telling me that Immortals is eight or no, probably lower, 5 or 6% primary stacks, 5 or 6% of the primary stacks in the contest, then I'd be a little more interested. Actually, I need to do that. Wow, I just thought of something. I'm gonna. I need to separate out something.
Primary versus secondary.
Yeah, because I've been working on this thing with like my sheet, like from the CSVs, where like being able to identify the lineups in the DraftKings contests by like parsing out what teams are involved in those stacks. I think a more simplistic way to do it would be using the captain stuff, but it just seems really like inefficient overall. But it would at least get you the primary stack information, and then you could do like this team was owned X percentage as a primary stack. Because I was more like I was more interested in like the actual roster combinations and lineup constructions, where it's like, okay, yes, Perks is your captain, but it's a 3-4, or it's a 4-3 or a 4-2-1. Like that's the kind of information that I would like for other reasons. Like, but if I'm just looking at it from the primary stack stuff, primary stack goes along well with the implied odds from the money lines and like their percentage to be the top stack of the day. So I need to do that like right now.
Yeah, that sounds like useful information for someone with a League of Legends DFS podcast.
Yes, it is. Let's see if I can do it really fast. I might be able to do it really fast, because if I go into the start up the next match, and I'll
Yeah,
be a
let's.
few
Yeah,
days.
well, we'll move on to the next one here. We have the best team in the LCS. Makes me sick to say. Team Solomon versus the worst team in the LCS, Counter Logic Gaming. TSM is going to be coming off a 3-win streak versus Counter Logic Gaming on a 2-loss streak, depending on if they beat Dig today. So yeah, we'll throw it over to you, Alan. TSM versus CLG. One matchup that was big on a rivalry now just isn't that exciting anymore.
Just straight sadness.
By the way, for those of you watching, I am fully aware that what I'm about to do is going to cause my Excel to pop up on the main screen, and it will be distracting for about 1 second. So, my apologies to the people watching this who get upset about production stuff.
Everyone was mesmerized by me switching from a standing position into the rocking chair in the nursery, so they had no idea that you even had something else on the screen. Everyone's looking deep into my eyes. The TSM CLG game. I think that this is a spot where I want to play TSM, and I almost never say that. Obviously, I think that they are humongous favorites to win the game. CLG's, as previously mentioned, a dumpster fire, and TSM is, as previously mentioned, right now the best record in the LCS. So no need to go any deeper than that in the analysis. But I think that CLG always opens up the potential for a lot of kills because number one, they're playing for nothing at this point. Is that correct? I guess because LCS is doing the season long thing, they can't make playoffs. I'm ruling them out. Even if they could, they don't have anywhere to go. They're
You're
fine.
dead to me.
So, so I also think that like they open up the kill upside of TSM, and they are generally that kind of team, even with motivation, because they have Wildcard on it. So, I think it's a good spot to play TSM. TSM always comes in at low ownership, even though they're a really good team. And this is one spot where I think that kind of ownership is going to be justified. So maybe something to look at is like what can you get with TSM Immortals tomorrow? That would probably interest me.
Yeah, it looks like FlyQuest and Golden Guardians would have to basically lose out, and CLG have a 3-0 week for this to be possible.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we'll throw it over to you, Michael. This one should be pretty cut and dry. TSM versus CLG. What do you like here?
Yeah, so I mean, yesterday I talked about TSM being a very annoying team because they can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody, and we saw that today 100%. So even though I picked 100 Thieves, I feel like I was right about something, so I don't feel horrible. I guess there's not a lot to take away from that makes you feel good about TSM in this spot. Do I think that they could lose to CLG? 100%. This will really come down to how I see CLG today and see what their mentality is like. Well, not mentality. See how they approach the games today. Because if they play the game today and it's like a hyper bloody match, I would kind of expect the same thing to happen tomorrow. But in that spot, I'd probably want both sides. I feel like CLG's do. Like, everybody's been wanting them to be good this entire season. Is that a reason to stay away? I don't know. You know what I mean? That's the issue that I have. Like, I'm convinced that they are a good DraftKings team when they win. I don't know if that's true or not. That's my problem.
Yeah, they haven't done a lot of that winning, so it is hard to measure on them. I don't think they've won a game since DeMonte came into the team. Is that right?
No, they did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They must beat Golden Guardians or something like that, right?
Probably
That is
someone who is
exactly-
not good.
That is exactly who they beat.
Although I don't hate Golden Guardians, so I take that back.
Yeah. Anyway, I think if you really think that CLG could win the game, I think it would be a good DraftKings spot for them. But I don't think they can win the game.
You got it.
All right, moving on to our fifth and final game. Wrap us up for this Saturday. Team Liquid versus Evil Geniuses. Michael, who's winning this one?
Sorry, say the teams again. I'm like distracted with this thing I'm doing.
Team Liquid
Okay, I
and
know
Evil
that team.
Geniuses.
And Evil Geniuses, I also know that team. Okay. So I think Team Liquid wins. I think Evil Geniuses is going to lose all 3 of their matches this week. I think that oh wow, they're winning right now. What happened? What happened in this game?
So, you know when teams like don't want to do anything on the map even though they have a slight gold lead?
Yeah.
That's Cloud9.
Okay, there you go. Now it all makes sense.
And they
So-
forfeited almost every tower score.
So it was 2-0. They had a gold lead. Did they try to make a play for a dragon? Oh, they ganked
Nope.
bot lane. Yeah, I don't really understand this. Yeah,
Zen is playing a very cool VAR skin though.
I'm anti Evil Geniuses from a DraftKings perspective. I'm very pro Evil Geniuses from like a long term Danny perspective. But I think now is the time to be against EG. I think they've been playing, not too well, but they've been playing better than they should be in general. So, still Team Liquid for me.
I don't know if it's the lunch I had or that Leona ult, but I'm going to throw up. Yeah, Alan, your turn. Team Liquid versus Evil Geniuses. What are we doing here?
I think I agree. I'm kind of at this point hoping that Evil Geniuses wins this game because I don't really have a ton of Cloud9 exposure, and I think yesterday I suggested that playing both sides made sense in this one. If Evil Geniuses wins, I think it's like the greatest Team Liquid spot of all time. There's a lot of things that go into that, right? People don't like to play Team Liquid because they think their upside's capped. We got the boy back, Santorin. I think they're a lot better with Santorin. I do think that Romeo was pretty heavily limiting TL, especially in drafting. And number 3, I think Evil Genius is a great team to be against. So for me, it's Team Liquid as well. I like what you can do with Team Liquid with basically everyone we talked about winning. So you can do some stuff with TL TSM. You can do some stuff with TL Immortals, and TLC9's a little bit harder, but I still would try and find something, maybe like a 4-2-1 or something like that for that. It does appear that Evil Geniuses may go on to win this game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought Danny misplayed, but apparently he was just baiting the rest of Cloud9 in, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, Aphelios, you can just if you just hit the button at the right time, sometimes you're a-okay.
That's the funny thing, because like when I was saying earlier in this game, the Yasuo Diana stuff, and I mentioned LS. LS's response would have been, well, you have basically a full melee team with Varus, who is not, they're long range, but they're not that long range. It's more of like
just
a lane bully.
Consistent damage, yeah.
Well, is that? But they what they really needed to do was, press the early game advantage. Like if you get the Varus ahead of Aphelios and can set up tempo and your positioning on the map to where Evil Geniuses needs to walk into you, then yes, it's going to be fine. Like, because Varus will get the extra poke damage down, and then while they're forced to walk into you, that's when you can engage with Leona, Yasuo, Diana. But if you're playing a slower style of League of Legends with a Yasuo, Diana, like, it just really, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's the beauty of League of Legends, is you can draft a winning edge, in my opinion, because like I think it's more important to draft an early game advantage. And then play around it. But you need to do it the right way. And they were not capable of doing that. So, looks like they're probably going to lose.
God, this Cloud9 team. What? So much hopes and dreams just crushed.
It's better. It's better for the Team Liquid spot tomorrow. So, if Evil Geniuses wins this game, play Team Liquid. I guess the problem would be, is that going to be a bloody match? I don't know.
I think yeah, I think any Evil Geniuses game has the opportunity to be very bloody as I cover my camera with my thumb.
All right, well, that does it for the LEC and the LCS. Do you guys have any last thoughts before we go?
I think tomorrow in the LEC, it's a good spot to fade G2, where they're going to be pretty highly owned in a bad matchup, in my opinion. And then LCS, I think, is kind of more straightforward. Like, I don't really like any of the underdogs on LCS.
Michael, any last words?
Um. Yeah, I like Misfits, Astralis, Rogue, G2, Mad Lions. Then I like 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, Cloud9, FlyQuest, TSM. And when, like, I haven't been plugged into the broadcasts for both of these today, but I'm sure that they've been talking about playoff implications. So if you know the playoff implications of specific matchups, I would definitely take those into consideration. It's not the only thing you should be considering, but it is good information to have because it might help you figure out, not figure out, because you'll never know what they're going to draft, but it might help you think to yourself, well, there's like a 75-80% chance that this team drafts according to what they generally do. But if it's like some kind of high stress situation, a lot of teams will just kind of draft additional late game insurance stuff just so they always have an out. Those are the things I would keep in mind for tomorrow.
All right, sounds great. Well, if you guys made it this far, as usual, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the Esports Department YouTube channel, hit up the Esports Department on Twitter, give them a follow. As always, thanks for the two analysts to join me tonight, Michael and Alan. You can find Michael at League of Items, Alan at ahelfalda. You can find me at xghostwriter90 on Twitter. Good luck on tomorrow's slate, and let's go make some money.
Let's do it. See ya.